Trump is basically taking over DC. Hello, is anybody out there? Is anybody in this thing? There's going to come a point where everybody realizes that there's no one coming to save us. The Democrats are not going to be able to save us. The only thing you can do is massive resistance in the streets. Donald Trump is basically...
There are so many layers to this announcement from the president in regards to what he thinks will actualize safety, in regards to how dismissive it is for him to have a Black woman who is a mayor of DC, and for him to not have strategized or had any sort of conversation with her or her team, and to have made this huge sweeping announcement on a Monday morning, when again, the Epstein files are right there. And this idea of sitting in the National Guard to actualize safety in DC. I thought the National Guard was for riots and, you know, these incidents where a city could be under siege. DC was the same DC when you was in office before. What's different now? And in fact, the crime has hit a 30-year low. So you release this information, you say things with no data, no one challenges you, no one forces you to offer any data. You put these charts, you go down to Kinko's and you print this shit and you put it in the White House office. You stand next to these silly ass looking white men and Stepford wives ass white women, and you just sit there looking goofy in your Payless penny loafers. Has anyone ever talked about, for you to have the amount of money you have, for you to have such ill-fitting suits is wild. I know a bitch in Omaha, Nebraska with a toupee that will sit you all day. But anyway, I digress. You don't have to have any proof of anything you're saying, and it's just as so. And it's also interesting to me, even if these young people or these folks on the ground are engaging in behaviors, you're the only person in the scenario that's an actual felon. I have never in my life seen a person with a criminal history be able to move as if they don't, and be able to dismiss and diminish the humanity of everyone else by labeling them what he is. You are using a label that is associated with you as a human being to make it seem okay to come into cities and essentially activate martial law. That a felon who was only able to skirt all the other accountability and punishment for his behavior because he was able to get into the White House. That's the only reason he was able to cover his ass, is weaponizing the police state for his own edification and to make the area around his house safe. So the DOJ are your personal attorneys and the National Guard is your postal security. Secret Service ain't enough. Because you ain't talked about Baltimore. You ain't talked about Chicago. You haven't. Cities have needs all over the place. With no plan. He never has a plan. He always has declarations. Do MAGA supporters and Trump supporters not want a plan? Are you so hungry for innovative, non-traditional leadership that you don't need anyone to explain how something happens? Is that where we are? Like how we do it? And how your plan will get us to the solution you say is necessary? That's not required anymore? That's not a partisan thing. That's a person that's able to explain their theory, how they will implement their theory, and what impact their theory will have on the work they're doing. That shit you got to do at your job, at your 90-day evaluation. It's not Republican, Democrat, or third party. That's tell us how you can be effective. Because if you don't tell us how you're going to be effective, you don't position yourself to ever be held accountable to you being ineffective. It's a swap and a swindle. It's a goop. Also, I saw a video of a Black woman. This is a evolution of his values and beliefs around cities and communities that have been historically Black and them being inherently violent. It is the evolution of how he was a catalyst in regards to the Central Park Five, those 5 young Black men, those Black children at the time, having their lives forever changed. This is that same shit with power, influence, and a culture where white nationalist rhetoric and white supremacist activity is normalized. Because for 5 years, niggas was able to open businesses.
All right, welcome to another edition of Let It Be Known. We can break down that video momentarily, but Niele, it's just chaos now.
For sure. Peace and love, everybody. We have a full show for you today, along with what's happening in DC, of course. We have news on the WNBA, KKK, and we have an update on Texas Dems, which are related to the chaos that Republicans and Trump and his clan are causing on our country. And I guess, Stacy, all eyes are on DC right now.
Well, and just in the video there, just a few things I caught note of that, I get the video. I get what the individual was saying, always on point.
Dominique Morgan is his name.
Dominique Morgan, okay. But strategize, questioning why he didn't strategize because there's a Black. You answered the question. There's a Black woman there. There's no strategy behind anything this guy does except to further his agenda. Dominique said when in office before, what's different? Nothing has to be different with this guy. He wants to make it different. No one challenges. And this is the point that we've been talking about. Where's the real challenge coming from? And no, he doesn't have to have proof anymore. You remember the Supreme Court. This is what makes Joe Biden such a failure, because of the Supreme Court's decision also applied to Joe Biden. And we know about the January 6th felons. No, they didn't deploy the National Guard. Everything is hypocrisy. And then you got a 34 times convicted felon talking about lock people up, don't give them bail. Well, bail benefited the 34 times convicted felon, didn't it? And martial law is something else to look out for. We always thought about it in terms of when the presidential election comes around, you declare martial law, you don't have to have an election. Well, that might be his fallback for the midterm elections, folks. We're looking at the redistricting and the redistricting situation. If they are not successful, if those Texas Democrats can continue to hold out past next year, past March, they fail with the redistricting there. California is certainly holding the line, and New York appears to be holding the line, and so is J.B. Pritzker in Illinois. So martial law could be what this guy is preparing for next November for the midterm elections. If things look bad, he will declare martial law, and therefore nothing changes. So a lot of things, and then the last thing I'll say, two more things I'll say. When Dominic mentioned he didn't talk about Baltimore, Chicago, New York, he absolutely did. He absolutely put them on his hit list. But like DC, their crime rates are at all-time lows. So he's manufacturing this crisis, as we know. And Dominic also talking about reasoning. Well, we know there's no reasoning with somebody who acts like their education level is nothing past second grade. So there's never been any reasoning, and the sheep will follow. We have some of his sheep that watches this show. They will follow, like they followed Jim Jones in California to the jungle back in the 70s, and they all drank the Kool-Aid. Literally, folks will drink his Kool-Aid, and he will sit there with his, as you said, with his swollen ankles, and he will watch you choke on your own stuff. And that's Donald Trump.
For sure. So let's get to the first headline and give them the facts about what's happening in DC, which you're right around the corner from.
Well, and kudos to Sam P.K. Collins of the Washington Informer once again, on the ground near Laurenburg, Black Virginia News and Black Press. They were there on the ground doing the work. But Donald Trump, of course, as we know, he declared that he was bringing out the National Guard and taking over D.C. And again, as I said, the facts. He claims that the crime, and of course there were plants there at the press conference to ask him the questions he wanted to say, stuff he wanted. One reporter claimed that he or someone else, a loved one, was a victim of a violent crime. It was a plant. All of that is a plant. DC crime is at a 30-year low. Homicides are down 32%. They've highlighted the carjackings over the past couple of years. Those are real, but they are not. The reason why, and I think I alluded to this yesterday, the reason why they've been so on people's mind, those carjackings, because a couple of them happen to involve VIPs. There's no different other than the VIP aspect. It's like in Los Angeles where the swatting goes on, and it's usually at a celebrity or a very wealthy person's house. That's what's happening in DC.
So here's what we know. The Home Rule Act is what's giving him this power. And he can use it with DC police force for federal purposes. We do know that. If he determines that there are special conditions of emergency nature. Now, here's what we do know. He can use the DC police for up to 48 hours or up to 30 days if he sends a special message to leaders of certain congressional committees. We know that he controls Congress, and so we know that that'll pass. But to use the DC police for longer than 30 days, he would need authorization from Congress. And so, although he's enacting this, it's kind of similar to what he did in LA. I think the only difference is the mayor is actually conceding to this versus when he came to California and LA and did it. Our mayor said, hell to the no. And she spoke back and she resisted. But from what I'm understanding, Stacy, and you can make the clarity of this, Mayor Bowser has just said, there's nothing I can do, and we're just going to follow his command. Is that correct?
It is correct, and it is correct to say that there's nothing much she can do, because here's what the bottom line with home rule. He invoked the home rule there, and the difference between the Home Rule Act, the difference between, again, Los Angeles and DC and anywhere else is, again, DC is just doesn't have autonomy. Congress has autonomy over DC. The president has autonomy over DC, and this is the first time it's been used. And there's nothing literally that she can do. Yes, he has 30 days, but this favorable Congress will give him as long as he wants. This is not going to end in 30 days unless he gets tired of it or bored with it and says, okay, I forget about it.
Like he did in LA.
Well, the difference is it's not necessarily fair to compare DC and LA in this case, because he can't just walk. See, LA is beholden to California, the state. DC is beholden to the president. And so therefore they can do things in DC that they couldn't do in LA. And Karen Bass, to your point, she did resist and could resist. Mayor Bowser can only sit back pretty much and hope that her AG can find some legal ways in which they can fight this. There's nothing she can do except for that.
Yeah, and I think here too, I mean, just the optics, right? One of the things that he got in LA was the optics. But what he was expecting of a level of resistance from protesters, he didn't get. There were peaceful protests. And I think that'll be another thing that can happen in DC, that people are exercising their First Amendment rights and they're protesting without any violence, right? See,
Mhm.
he's thinking that having these military forces, it's going to cause chaos and people are going to, interfere with the military. And that's just not how protests work.
Right.
Traditionally, most of the time there are peaceful protests, and in these military and police officers can't do anything. So I think as long as the people protest and hold the line, it's gonna fall flat, because we know that crime is down in DC, right?
Mhm.
The only people that they're really going to be attacking is the homeless people. That's it. The
Well,
protesters aren't gonna. The
mhm.
protesters are not January Sixers. They're not rioters. Okay, they're not causing chaos. They're just exercising their First Amendment rights. So you have to give some credit, or in advance, to how protesters handle this moment, because as long as
Mhm.
they speak truth to power and they protest and raise the level of consciousness in that state, all eyes on DC, there's really nothing that the military will be able to do.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to say there's nothing that they can do legally. You could say legally there's nothing they can do, but what they will be able to get away with is another story under this administration. And for instance, folks are now telling you don't even drive in DC if you're black or brown. They're going to be stopping you. They're going to be asking for your ID constantly. It's going to be it is chaos as we speak. And this guy is getting away with it. I do agree with RNG a little bit here that the police, MPD, could have the mayor's back a little bit more. We've heard about these blue outs where all these cops call in sick as their form of protest. This mayor has indeed, if she hasn't done anything right in people's eyes in DC, and I'm very critical of her. One thing she has done is please her police department, and for the officers, perhaps the union can finally stand up and do something right. The union for the most part seems to always be on the wrong side of things certainly when it comes to black and brown lives. But for them to stand up and say, listen, we got our mayor's back, we're not taking this, and not only have our mayor's back, but how about the fact that this man, Donald Trump, pardoned January 6th who attacked and assaulted Metropolitan Police officers as well as Capitol Police officers, eventually leading to what, 5 or 6 of them dying. And you heard the rioters say even kill the police. And you mean to tell me you gonna go along with this? Like, okay, fall right into line. So it's more than just the mayor. I talk about her going to Mar-a-Lago and kissing the ring and capitulating and stuff like that. But this is about the DC police force as well. I mean, where do you
Well,
stand up? You usually
well,
stand up like a mob when someone is brought in for assaulting or, God forbid, killing a cop. But where are you now?
I think time will tell, because just like LAPD out here, I mean, Trump can do all this, but it's how the actual men in uniform respond, right?
Mhm.
They don't have to respond with the force of what you saw in that press conference yesterday, right? They can
Mhm.
continue to show up and do their job every day like they have been doing. And I think, we just should give it time to see. Now, if the military and the police officers respond with the mindset of a Trump clan administration, that's one thing,
Mhm.
right? So I think that's what we need to be paying attention to, how the military and the police respond. If they respond like they've been doing every day, in the city, then it's just Donald Trump doing what he does, trying to cause chaos. But it is how the military and the police officers respond. And I really think that this is just about Donald Trump testing the waters, like he tested it in LA. Now he's testing it under a different scenario, because, like you said, DC doesn't have statehood. So he is dipping his foot in the water, trying to see how far he can go. But it's really going to be dependent on how that police department and how that military respond to what he's saying. And I really don't think, just like they came out here in LA, they didn't do nothing. They had to, because of what he said. but they didn't come out like ICE. They didn't have that
Mhm.
mindset like them. And so hopefully that happens in DC as well. But what I'm really more concerned about is that press conference he had yesterday. And the way
Mm.
him and your friend are over from Fox, the one you said that you used to work with, the way
Mhm.
she came up to that podium and basically said she coming after Negroes without saying Negroes,
Mhm. Yep.
that is problematic. And the way that he took and named all black cities and said that our cities are next,
Mhm.
to me that's more problematic than
Mhm.
what he's doing, what he did in California and what he did in DC, because I'm proud of how the law enforcement and the military handled the situation. They didn't
Mhm.
fall in line with what he wanted you to do like them ICE agents are doing. But the way
Mhm.
he attacked black cities, and I'm so glad like Mayor Brandon Scott and all these black mayors across the country started putting out their stats, right? Saying
Yep.
no, crime is down. He's a liar, 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 pants on fire.
You know,
And
that was the first thing I did, Niele, when I was writing the story. Is the first thing before the press conference was over, I went looking for the crime stats.
well, they put them out, so you could just go to their
Oh
their
no, I
Instagram
found them
page
immediately,
and
even
see it.
before.
Yeah,
What I'm
and they're
telling you is
putting them out there.
right before,
Yeah,
because we had done a story about particularly Baltimore and what the mayor there had done with crime. We had done that story a couple of months ago, and I think we talked about it here on Let It Be Known as
yeah,
well.
and people were doing the stories, but I was glad that the mayor himself was,
Mhm.
you know, popping his own collar. Like
Yeah.
crime is down. You've seen him on all the news circuits, all the news shows. And yesterday you saw the mayor of LA. You saw all of these black mayors putting out their stats like no, crime is down.
Yep.
Get out of here with that.
Yeah.
And so,
Absolutely.
I think it's we really need to pay attention. Like, I'm more concerned about the homeless people in DC because those are the ones that are going to be subject and victimized more than the average person on the street because they're the most vulnerable. And that is who they're going to go after if they do.
Yeah, it'll be alligator Alcatraz for them for sure. You know, he wants to put people in concentration camps, and the problem again with DC is that while they have a DC jail, you don't have, you know, an arrest in DC doesn't mean you go to a DC jail. They can put it becomes you become federal jurisdiction at that point, and so they can send you to a federal prison camp.
Yeah, he's testing the waters here and there, and that's just what they're doing. They're testing the waters. Because and I think all of this boils down to is how the American people respond as we look at what's happening with the upcoming midterm elections and these elections that are coming up. It's going to be critical. The vote is going to be very critical and very powerful coming up on local, state, and federal levels because who we put in office this point moving forward will determine how much power Donald Trump has across this country.
Well, that's a, you know, you look right now, and folks have been asking, I've mentioned this a number of times with those that are in office now. Where have you been? Where has been the pushback? I mean, we're seeing some again. We saw Gavin Newsom, and perhaps you know, perhaps he is showing you what leadership really looks like because he hasn't backed down. We've seen some pushback, but then back down. Um, I keep thinking about Gavin Newsom. Wes Moore is another one. You mentioned the statements. Wes Moore put out a statement, the governor of Maryland, and a very powerful statement refuting all of Trump's nonsense. And you still don't have a whole lot. Governor Hochul in New York, she's not on my most trusted list, but she's trying to do what's right now. But you know, some people got to they really more than others got to show me rather than tell me. But that's where I'm at with Governor Hochul in New York. But I can see it in Gavin Newsom. I can see it in Wes Moore. And of
I
course,
see it in the
we all see
governor
it
in Illinois, the governor of
Illinois. Yeah.
Michigan.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Um, I
Absolutely.
mean, I see it in Democratic governors. You know that to me, that's what leadership looks like. It's happening all across the country. Right. The governor of who's the governor of Minnesota?
That's what's his name?
Walsh,
Walsh.
Tim
Yeah.
Walsh. Yeah, I mean, it's happening across the country. Governors are holding, the Democratic governors are holding the line. Democratic mayors in their local cities are holding the line. It goes back to state and local is where people are holding the line. It is in Washington, D.C., it is in Congress where Democrats are having the biggest challenge. And you're seeing the ones that are stepping up, that are speaking up, and then you're seeing the ones that are kind of just falling by the wayside. I think you see that more in Congress than you see that in states and cities. But when Trump attacks a city, you see what these states and cities are made of, for sure.
Yeah, I'm just perplexed. I mentioned this the other day how the there's nobody really sat down before November and then after the election to really formulate a plan. You mentioned Project Esther yesterday. They had Project 2025, and this is what this is. As Dawn put yesterday on her social media, people saying that distractions. These are not necessary distractions. These are what this is all in Project 2025. This
Mhm.
takeover of these cities and stuff like that. Where in the world was the opposite of Project 2025? Where's that plan? But I guess we got a video. Let's go to the video.
Jim Crow or Black Code laws could be categorized as vagrancy laws. Black people were declared vagrant if unemployed or without a permanent residence. Such people could be arrested, fined, and bound down for a certain term of labor if unable to pay the fine. Black codes, which were passed right after the Civil War, were created with the intention of having a steady and secure supply of cheap labor and to continue the so-called inferiority of freed Black people. Black folks are the majority in DC, and 20 to 25% of us live in poverty. And some studies show that we are 85% of the unhoused. The Jim Crow mindset never changed, it just adapted to what's politically correct. We need safe houses, safety patrols, and safe communication.
Now, Donald Trump has an
Well,
100%.
without question, and that kind of leads into part of what our next story is too, because you talk about black codes and you talk about a racist. Let's not even hide the racist part. Let me just go right at him. No dog whistle or anything. Donald Trump is arguing in the Ninth Circuit in California that he wants to allow federal officers to seize people from the streets and workplaces based on 4 factors: their apparent race or ethnicity, the language they spoke or accent in their voice, their presence in a location like a car wash, an agricultural site, a Home Depot, and the type of work they were doing. He says that would justify the arrest of anyone who, quote, appears Hispanic, speaks Spanish or English with an accent, wears work clothes, and stands near a car wash in front of a Home Depot or at a bus stop. He is arguing those factors are valid reasons for them to be arrested by ICE agents.
Okay, so
That is straight up racist. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, companies aiding Trump's immigration crackdowns. So basically, companies are benefiting from Trump's actions.
Well, yeah, that's the other part of this story too that we were going to get to as well. I just thought because of that video, I thought we'd go to that part. But you're right. Geo Group, Plantier, Core Civic, they are all cashing in on this ICE stuff, and that's the other part of it. These folks are supporting Trump's weaponization of police.
Yeah, I mean, they're all in it together. They were all at the inauguration. They all understood the assignment. They were all at talks before Trump won when they were crafting Project 2025. It was how they would benefit from it. When you look at, Project Esther, when you talk about arresting protesters, well, who's going to house the protesters once you arrest them?
Yeah, it is the money that they've made off this is incredible. And again, the argument that Trump is making in the Ninth Circuit up in California is really, folks, if you're right, Dr. Joni, it's disgusting. It's no longer a dog whistle. That guy said, if they appear to be Hispanic, if they have any sort of accent, if they are in work clothes near a Home Depot or bus stop or an agricultural site, arrest them. That's enough reasons for them to be arrested.
But this all goes back to, I hate to say it, but that Joe Biden crime bill, because that was the gateway to lock Black and brown men up, right? That was a gateway to house prisoners and boost privatized prisons, right? Because somebody had to build the buildings, present the beds, and make the facilities for this crime bill and all of these people that they were going to start to arrest. And so now we understand why Joe Biden, his presidency was also about atonement to Black folks. I mean, he was atoning to us because he opened this Pandora's box. Him and some people will say the NAACP was down with it, the Black church was down with it, but at its roots, they're only expanding on that bill. That was the gateway. But now Black people, Black men we're less than 13% of the population. So who is the next group of people that they could go after? And it's brown people. And so it goes back to like when we talk about systemic racism, it goes back to when I was like, Donald Trump is crack cocaine, Joe Biden was powder cocaine. It all at its core, it's systemic racism and how these white folks, these white powerful men, I don't care if they Democrat or Republican, these white men of power have always controlled how this country is run, and it is rooted in systemic racism.
You got no argument with, I'm sure many people wouldn't argue with that. Dr. Joni said, and that wasn't right. I'm sure she's talking about the crime bill, but she says we can't blame this on him. Trump is a crook. And that's being kind.
I'm just saying the root. Everything has a
right.
root. It stems from something. And the Pandora's box was open when we talk about privatized prisons and we talking about white men profiting on Black and brown people. When we talk about prisons, it started with that crime bill.
Yeah. Listen, this country has never, ever wanted to face up to and do any type of recompense for its severe, harsh, inhumane racism that it continues to exhibit today. So, and Dr. Joni, right, I was thinking the same thing. Ultimately, Niele is correct, but ultimately it goes back to slavery.
And we talk about white men. We still talk about white men.
Yep.
Talk about white men. And when we look at the Project Esther, Christian nationalism, white men.
Project 2025.
White men, the Heritage Foundation.
Yeah, without question.
And they base it all on Christianity, the word of God. That's the crazy part.
Yeah. Wow. On a much brighter topic, a disabled Black woman has been crowned Miss Wheelchair Mississippi. I didn't even know about this. It was kind of actually fun to look in on this, but Kimberly Butler, she just earned the title of Miss Wheelchair Mississippi, and she is transforming a crown into a powerful platform for change. After 3 decades in a wheelchair, she's now preparing to represent her state at the Miss Wheelchair America competition that'll be held in Grand Rapids, Michigan from August the 18th to the 24th. With her Universal Design for All initiative, she pushes for accessibility and inclusion to be built into every program, service, and policy from the get-go. Already, she's been making waves at home. Now, Kimberly has teamed up with local leaders to establish an ADA advisory board and is leading a downtown simulation to shine a light on barriers many overlook. And so she says winning the national title would give her even more of a stage to amplify those issues nationwide. So good for Miss Kimberly Butler, Niele, Miss Wheelchair, Mississippi.
Well, that's so cool. I love that for her. And I love, like, as we are navigating through this racist climate, that has intensified. It's always been there, but it is intensified under a Trump plan administration. I love how us Black folks are still finding our joy. We're still moving forward on the things that bring us joy and the things that we want to be a part of. And this is just another example of just don't let them steal your joy. You can still run for the crown of Miss America to the crown of Miss Wheelchair. You could do it all. And I love this for her. I think that's so cool. And we need more stories like this, because we could be bogged down with the anxiety when you hear things that Donald Trump says, especially the dog whistle things, right? And so us as Black folks, because our ancestors endured so much, we have found a way to navigate through all of this and still keep our joy and our resilience. And I think this is definitely an example of that.
Think you you said she could still run for the crown.
I mean, well, run it.
Wait a minute now.
Run. See, now you're trying to be funny.
Wait a minute now. I was like,
Not
she gave me that's an Eddie Murphy moment right there.
Right. Not the physical run, but like you run for office. You run in the campaign.
Kimberly's like,
hilarious.
Niele, if I could run, I wouldn't be in this chair.
Look.
But Mike V says that the Trump administration cut funding for ADA projects such as those curb ramp extensions. Now, Niele, you talk about his ankles. What's going to happen when those ankles do explode and he needs that extension, that curb extension? He gonna get one, right?
I'm hoping that, I'm gonna keep that to myself.
Oh, okay. We don't want incidents.
Because I'm hoping he's not gonna need nothing. Okay,
we don't have bail money.
Deal. But anyway,
congratulations to Kimberly one last time.
Yes, congratulations to her. And all the Black folks that are finding your joy in this horrible time in this nation. So the Klan is still clanning, and they're feeling more emboldened under, this administration. But residents in Cincinnati are expressing disappointment after several KKK flyers were found scattered throughout a Cincinnati neighborhood. Now, the flyers were found in the College Hill and Madisonville neighborhoods. The flyers tell white residents to arm themselves to protect themselves against vicious attacks from those of color. The message appears to be in response to a fight that broke out several weeks ago at a Cincinnati music festival. And so we know that the Klan is on the rise. They're on the rise, Stacy.
Like you said, the Klan gone Klan.
The Klan gone Klan. And, speaking of the Klan, they're offering $50,000 bonuses for ICE agents. And, they're going to waive your student loan fees. And they say, and Homeland Security is saying that they already have 80,000 applicants waiting to be approved. So
here we go.
That's what the Klan, that's how the Klan is clanning. So just a quick update on what's happening with the Democratic lawmakers in Texas, or the whole redistricting situation in Texas. So no more direct deposit for Texas Dems. Texas House Speaker Dustin Burrows announced at a Friday session that Democrats would be required to collect their monthly checks and per diem in person. So they have just canceled all direct deposit for Democrats that have left the state. Now, Friday's action came after hours of a quorum that didn't happen because they weren't there, and a suburban Chicago hotel complex where Democratic legislators are staying, they received a second bomb threat. And so as they are, fighting to save democracy, they're getting bomb threats. The Republicans have stopped their direct deposit. But interestingly enough, do you know how much they make a month, Stacy?
Tell us.
$600. I thought it would be
The
more.
legislature, the
Yeah,
Texas
their
legislature.
$600 check in their per diems. Google it. Their $600 checks in their per diems. It was like $600. You would think that they would make more than that, right?
Yeah, that sounds a little
That sounds
weird.
like that sounds crazy to me too.
Well,
But that was according to Politico.
right. And if that's the case, then to me, it makes it a little easier to stick it out, to get away from there.
Just stick it out. And I think that's what I mean, if that's it, then yeah, Google that. Mike V says minimum wage.
Minimum. If didn't a couple of the Democrats go back to the state house?
Well, they can. Some of them can go back because they need a certain number. So it's okay for some of them to stay.
Okay.
It's just majority can't stay because if they don't have a certain threshold, then they can't hold a quorum.
Okay. So wouldn't they so they can actually take turns then, like, okay, us 5 we go this time and then we leave, and then us 5 let's pick up their checks at least.
Oh, right. Go pick up my check. Or you would think that their staffer can go pick up their check for them.
Yeah.
Or a family member could. But Dr. Joni is saying state legislators in all states make almost nothing. They almost all have to have another job.
Okay.
So like when Rep Jolanda Jones was on the show, she was talking about how she had her law practice with her son, remember?
Mm-hmm. Now, see, I know in Pennsylvania, because I covered Pennsylvania, they make about $104,000-$105,000 a year in Pennsylvania, the state legislators. But it depends, I guess, and they get what do you call it? COLA, cost of living increases as well. But they are like you said, in some instances, like I guess like Texas. I didn't know Texas was $600. I think, yeah. I mean, some city councils in small towns get $600. Good night. So you have to
good night.
you have to be pretty well set up
so
to
here
take
it
on
is.
that job.
Listen, Texas legislators are part-time lawmakers who earn a base salary of $7,200 per year.
Good. Ooh, and y'all want to go through that stress? Dealing with Governor Hot Wheels?
Okay, so it says the per diem for the 2021-2022 was $221 per day. So they have a high per diem per day.
Right.
But their base salary is $7,200. So they said this adds up to a total of $38,140. And for a 2-year term, it totals to $45,000.
Yeah, wow. Dr. Joni says in Minnesota and Wisconsin they make under 10,000. So I guess the idea of a public servant, that's the idea of a public servant, right? It's not to like the federal lawmakers. They stay there because they're making all this money.
But don't forget about the lobbyists that walk the halls in state capitals. You know, there are a lot of perks that come with lobbyists.
A whole lot of perks.
So, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the base. That's the bottom floor.
Yeah,
let some lobbyists from Coca-Cola, pharmaceutical companies come on in and, you know, write a policy for you and ask you to slap your name on it. You know, who knows what you're getting from that.
Exactly. Patricia Jackson said, "Oh, it's the perks."
It's the perks. It's the perks.
Gosh.
I was, you know, that was one of my other dream jobs was to be a lobbyist. You know, because I think that, you know, when people ask you to run for, if you're interested in running for office and things like that, I really believe the power is outside of being a legislator, as we found out. You know, $600 a month. You know, who's running back for that? Number one. But like when you're a lobbyist, you make a ton of money and you get to give a ton of money away to get the agenda done.
Well, there you go. There you go. Mike V says, which massa are they serving? David Youngblood is a lobbyist.
Yeah. So see, we learned something today about lobbyists about lawmakers on the show. They don't make nothing.
Well, it depends on where they're at.
They don't really make anything. It's all about the deals that they will, right? The deals that they will. But to the point that you said, it's really about being a public servant. But, you know, politicians have tons of power, Might not be financially from the state or the city, but they have tons of power and they get tons of perks.
Yeah.
So don't feel bad for their $600.
Oh, no. Shoot. Look, the way things going, $600 might be something I need.
Tell me
right
about
away.
it. Tell me about it. All right. Switching it up, a little sports headline. Congratulations to Las Vegas Aces basketball player Asia Wilson, who gave WNBA fans a great present when she became the first player in the WNBA history to have a 30-point, 20-rebound double-double. And there she is right there. She's a member, I believe she's a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Psi. What is it? Yeah, Alpha Kappa Alpha Incorporated. She's AK.
Oh, okay.
And her sneakers,
Wow.
the reason why I'm saying that is because she had sneakers made, in the colors of her sorority.
Yeah. She's also fast becoming a fashion icon too. So look out.
For sure. She definitely has style.
Mm-hmm. She also, I think she also has some deals, fashion deals,
Really?
that endorsements. Yeah. So she's doing her thing. And like you said, that 30 points, 32 points, 20 rebound performance. Woo. Listen, the girl is in a class by herself right now.
That's huge. That's huge for her. And it's definitely a better headline than another dildo on the court.
Somebody got hit with one and they're being charged with assault or something like that. I think it was like 4 or 5 of them have been tossed out there. Somebody got arrested, but they're still tossing it out there. It's just ludicrous.
Yeah.
First of all, what are you carrying that around for?
Right.
The stuff that happens at these arenas and stadiums nowadays. Oh boy, it might not be safe. It might not be safe
so
to go.
Disrespectful to
It's
women.
extremely disrespectful. Yeah.
But on a brighter note, she's taking that headline with her double history. So congratulations to her. And those are your headlines for today.
And Dr. Marilyn says, get it right. Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Inc.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not a member, so I'm glad that you got it right. I just know she has the pink and green shoes.
And I was going to say, it appears that Dr. Marilyn may be an AKA because she's got the pink and green hearts going there. So
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Dr. Marilyn.
Yeah, well, it seems like he was on the right track. So
yeah, but for some reason I wanted to add I don't know where the side came from. I guess what is it called? The Kappas. What is the Kappas?
Y'all got me with that. I just listen. I know like Bobby Henry down in Florida
Kappa,
is like you.
Alpha Psi, and then it's Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and then the Kappas are the red and white. Those are the gentlemen.
Oh,
the pretty boys, as they say.
Okay, and Dr. Marilyn is a member, she says. Okay, very nice.
Much respect. My sister is a member too.
Okay, I'm sure we got Kappa Alpha Psi.
There we go. That's the men in red and white. Those are the pretty boys with the red and white canes, right?
Okay,
I think I got that right.
I guess. Listen, I know deltas. I know we got some deltas on here. I know.
He gonna make Dr. Marilyn mad. Give me a delta, thick thighs, save lives. Ooh.
Good night.
Dr. Marilyn, get him.
This guy, it's gonna cost you some of that money under your mattress if you keep that up. So,
right. Thick thighs save lives. Okay, that's close to throwing a dildo on the field.
Oh gosh. Dr. Jones says it's interesting how athletes are now in a crossover with influencers. Social media has certainly blurred lines and opened up other options for athletes, college and pro. Absolutely. Yep. She's absolutely right. Mm.
Mm-hmm.
All right, some Black history on this date. In 1922, the Washington, D.C. home of abolitionist Frederick Douglass became a dedicated national museum. In 1878, Frederick Douglass moved into the house, which he named Cedar Hill, with his wife, Anna Murray Douglass. After his death on February 20th, 1895, his widow founded the Frederick Douglass Memorial and Historical Association. And in 1916, the Frederick Douglass Memorial and Historical Association jointly owned the house with the National Association of Colored Women's Clubs until 1962, when the federal government took the deed to the house with the intent of restoring it. So, among the preserved sites at the Frederick Douglass Museum is his growlery. It was a secluded room with a stove, bed, and desk where he sometimes retreated to his work and writing. So some interesting stuff on Frederick Douglass and his home.
Right. Nostalgia, or just history, I should say. I love that. I love it. I love period pieces. Is anybody watching The Gilded Age? Is anybody sad that they went away? I mean, I just love history, right? I love Black history. And I love
Greer's watching
American
it.
history. Who's
Yeah,
watching it?
Greer.
Oh, Greer, you're watching it? Yes, that show is just so good. Well done. Shout out to Sally Richardson. Amazing director on that show. But the reason why I'm saying that is because, Frederick Douglass, the old, history, it's a beautiful thing to watch. And Black folks are not destitute in that show. They were
Right.
living in a house just like Frederick Douglass, cultured, educated, and interacting with white folks, and we
Hey,
rarely see that side of history in films. We always see the destitute slave running for freedom, and it's just a whole different approach to American history, and I love it. But let's fast forward to 1990, where playwright August Wilson won the Pulitzer Prize for drama for his play The Piano Lesson.
mm,
And so we remember August Wilson today, The Piano Lesson. And I know the Denzel Washington's family recently redid The Piano Lesson, and a lot of the Washington family members played in it. You remember that?
yes, indeed. Absolutely. August Wilson was just one of the greatest, if not the greatest. Yeah, amazing stuff that August Wilson was able to come up with. And we still celebrate today. So, oh, by the way, in response to the RNG's Thick Thighs Save Lives comment, Dr. Marilyn says, Niele, I'm not going to let him live.
No, she says, I'm gonna let him live.
Oh, she's going to let him live. Oh,
She's
okay.
gonna let him live.
Okay.
As
Wow.
we should. It's all fun and games.
And Aquarius is sad about the Gilded Age as well.
I know we have to wait a whole nother year. Okay. We have to wait till next summer to get a new season.
Well, so it's summer. It's a summer series only.
Well, we don't. It could come out in the spring, but every year they drop a season, and
Mm.
so the last episode aired Sunday night, and
So
it was good.
how many seasons has it been so far?
This is the fourth season.
Okay.
It's the
Wow.
fourth season, and this season, Felicia Rashad came into the picture, and she was the mother of a Howard doctor, a graduate from Howard Medical School, and he fell in love with this this Black woman who's working for this white family. It's a delicious. When I say delicious, I mean I can't wait to watch that show on Sunday night. So I'm gonna have to let it go. And of course, this week we bid farewell to and just like that, Sex in the City. All these shows come on HBO Max, Stacy. So I'm sorry.
Okay, so the Gilded Age, that was my question. The Gilded Age is on HBO Max.
It's on HBO Max, and I'm telling you, it is a great binge. You have 4 seasons to get caught up. You got a whole year to do it. I recommend that you do it because it talks about the old New York, right? So, Stacy, you probably would love this. It's about old New York, and it's old money versus new money. And it's really the story of the Vanderbilt family. So Anderson Cooper is the Vanderbilt.
Anderson Cooper, yeah.
Yeah, but it's really about his family and how they, came into money and how the old money in New York didn't want to let them in. And so this mother is very ambitious. And, the Met Gala, how the inception of all of that. I mean, and how women who were divorced were cast out of society. So making space. I mean, when you talk about the Gilded Age, it's like that's where Trump wants to take us back to.
That's what Greer said. That's what she's been watching that a while.
Listen, just to jump in, since it's been the end of the show. If you're a New Yorker, you recognize because if all of the names Astor plays, right? Skimmerhorn, that's a train station, like down, so these are very classic, families that took over. If you walk through New York, it's all of their names,
right?
Because these are society people. One thing I wanted to throw in there was that, like they interacted with them, but Black people with any means, they weren't pressed to be around. Like they had their world. And they had, their world. They were separate worlds, right? But sometimes they did clash. And Black folks were not putting it, they weren't holding their head down when they were walking by them because they felt like, so it's I'm a history buff too. So I enjoyed, the Russell's family, like she said, is really about the Vanderbilts.
Right. Yeah. And you could take. Yeah, it's really good. And to Greer's point, the last episode was the Black folks had their ball, the white folks had their ball, and both of them. We wanted to know what happened in both of them. Okay,
listen, I'm inspired. I think I'm gonna have a ball before the season is over. I'm thinking before the year.
And I was just talking to my mother yesterday about how the parties back then were to make sure it was a family affair. So when you went to a party back then, your mother, your father, and the kids went because the mothers were trying to marry off their kids, whether it was the son or the daughter. And these balls were where you would gather to, whether you wanted your daughter to marry a duke. And that was another thing during that time, Greer and Stacy, that the Americans wanted their kids to marry, dukes and duchesses. Because that also, furthered the prominence of their name and their family.
It was a carryover, really, from Europe, right? This structure, right, of society and all of that. It was a carryover, and so the thing about the Gilded Age is that you had the old, the old family, the old, and those are people that, could trace their lineage back to the Mayflower. All of that type of thing, and then new money, right? And this is such a powerful, in this particular moment of watching this, because it was really at a time where you didn't really have like government workers, or any of that, right? You had these wealthy men trying to, they were getting involved with government, and government was trying to avoid that, and many of the problems that were created, among the poor were created because these wealthy men did not care about anything but getting wealth. They were so far, so people could not afford, they couldn't make a living wage. And that's something that we saw going through the Depression. So I'm going to get off here, but what I want to say about that is that that's the reason why you have these conservatives. They want to keep people dumb and stupid. Because if you don't know history, then you would vote for Donald Trump. Because the last thing that they understood this then, and which is why they created the Constitution the way they did, that this what we're seeing now, that it could happen. And they have been easing their way into government, right, to control our society. They were already controlling it through their wealth by the industry and the jobs that they created. But now what's happening, we got a businessman in office who's trying to make sure that everybody is dependent on industry and their innovation, not the government.
Right.
You know?
And I think, even with Donald Trump, when you look, he wants to be a part of that Gilded Age, because you can look at, he wants to be a Kennedy, right? The influence and the power of the Kennedy family, he envies that. And he wants to be accepted in that group of elite white folks in New York. And the biggest crowd he could get into was an Epstein crowd, little whorehouses. But he's never been invited to the influential side of the New York elites. Okay, he's always wanted that. And to Nancy Wall, yes, arranged marriages. The diary, the diary was very important, because what you find out in the Gilded Age is that a lot of those dukes and duchesses were broke. They had the castles and they had the facade, but they didn't have the money. So they would come over to America, and you would have these arranged marriages with these American women. And then the father would grant them a diary. And then they would go over there. And that's how these dukes and duchesses would fund their homes. Yeah. Very interesting show. And if you want to watch another one like that, and I don't know, Greer, if you watch The Buccaneers on Apple TV, The Buccaneers is about how these American girls went over to Europe and married these European men, dukes, duchesses, and how they became a prominence in, America. I love it. I love it.
Wow. And we're getting so many comments. Y'all have inspired folks to write in. Mike V says the only Duke I've ever known was a box of hair relaxer for black men.
Oh my God.
Dr. Marilyn loves it when Greer pops in, she says. And Justin Sports Medicine says, but his type of Kennedy rides the short school bus. And Patricia Jackson said that's why he wants his name and buildings to appear elite.
Right.
Nancy Wall said he can't even read. And David says Trump is just a vile and disgusting example of excess. And yes, Dr. Marilyn, Trump has the White House looking like a swap meet. Shoes, Bibles, and merch.
He would not be invited to those parties back in the Gilded Age. The Trumps, no.
Well, no,
they wouldn't be invited.
Not the picture y'all paint. No way.
Another a landmark, the Waldorf Historian. If you do the research of the history behind those two buildings and how they came together, but it was based upon family feuding. And one building was here, the other building was here, and then they finally came together. But the Waldorf and the Historian, there were two different people, but it came together in the end. There's a lot of back and forth. So I wonder, who I would really like to talk to? Anderson Cooper. Now that we know more about his family, how he feels about that. And a lot of those families ended up broke because they built mansions. Like all those big hotels and stuff, those were really just one house for one family. They lived in like hotels.
Wow. It really does sound interesting. So I guess you got some folks saying they got to check it out. So good thing you said, where is that? HBO Max.
HBO Max is the Gilded Age, and the Buccaneers are on Apple TV.
Apple TV for the Buccaneers. All right, folks, our dowry.
Not diary, dowry.
All right, Lydia Mathis with the English professor over there, huh? Our Black-owned newspaper today is the Washington Informer, a Black woman-owned multimedia news organization serving African Americans in the DMV with over 60 years of experience spanning 3 generations. The Washington Informer remains dedicated to delivering accurate, timely, and essential information, earning the trust of its audience along the way. And of course, no more crucial of a time for the Washington Informer than now to read the Washington Informer, to be informed of what's going on there in the district. So check out the Informer.
For sure. Definitely. You write a lot for that publication as well, right?
I definitely do. Denise is the one who brought me into the Black press world, and so I am forever in her servitude for that.
Great publication, and one to watch and read as the situation in DC unfolds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for the latest in Black news, you can go over to the Washington Informer, but of course, you can head over to BlackPressUSA.com.
Folks, it's been real. We'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for all the comments. We'll see you tomorrow.